What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today, I am reviewing, and it's not really gonna be a review, it's gonna be a rant. Texas Chainsaw 3D. This movie is just absolute. It's such the words I can muster for this. It's really fucking bad. It's not, in my opinion, this is contention for worst Texas Chainsaw movie if it wasn't for the 2022 movie. It is tied with it, in my opinion, because this one is supposed to be like, theoretically, the idea was this was supposed to be a sequel to the original. You know, they wanted to go back to the original, which, okay, on paper that's not bad, but then it makes no sense. Multiple things. I think originally this was supposed to be like in the 90s, but then they changed it, and fuck, even the way the film is shot, you could tell that they were going with that original idea. So it's like they didn't even work to try to change it, because theoretically now it's supposed to be 2011 because there's like iPhones, the cars look modern, but then there are shots where a lot of the ways some of these people are dressed, they're clearly supposed to be 90s. So it's like a mishmash. So you got that aspect. You got the story is really bad because you don't have the Sawyers. I didn't even remember that about this one. I thought there was a Sawyer aspect. No. They're pretty much gone, aside from Leatherface, who lives under the house. And I guess technically fucking Heather, I think is Alexander Dario's character's name. So it's like, you don't have the Sawyer. So this is why I think these two films have suffered. This one and I haven't seen the 2017 one, which I am going to review next week. So that one I'll actually be going in blind. So I don't know about that one. But just comparing this one and the 2022 one as like just individual Texas Chainsaw films. What sucked about it is you need the Sawyers. Whatever, as bad as, like, you know, the Next Generation was, now it's batshit in a bad way. But at least you had the Sawyers being there. At least you had that kind of fun batshit element. The Sawyers are what makes these movies. I mean, look at the 2003 one and the original. These are, like, those are arguably probably the two best of the franchise. And it's like, the reason is because the Sawyers are a big part of those movies. Even the second one. It's like, I don't understand the decision. Let's take him out and have it just be Leatherface. Sorry, Leatherface is just not interesting on his own. And this movie is an example of that. And Alexander Daddario, as hot as she is, just doesn't cut it for me. None of the characters matter. You don't give a shit about none of them. So basically, she finds out that she was adopted, and she decides to take a road trip with her friends. Her boyfriend Ryan, I think Nikki's the girl, and then the other, I don't even remember what the other dude's name was, like Bill or something. And while down there, she finds out more about her family. Leatherface is there, and it's so weird. I feel like the kills, too, are just very weak. And rewatching this again, this movie broke me. It's such a bad movie. Like, there's just bad lines. It's boring. I think it's boring, honestly. It just kind of just shit happens. Like, you don't care about none of it. The timeline obviously doesn't make sense because it's clearly... Because one of the things originally when I first heard of this movie being made was it was supposed to be set in the 90s. You can clearly tell. Because they're even just some of the way the characters are dressed. This is supposed to be 2011. I'm like, I don't think people in 2011 dress like that. This felt like this was clearly supposed to be the 90s, but then last second you decide to make it modern day. Because this came out in 2013, so... And Leatherface's mask was terrible in this. It just... I feel like they didn't even try. And the kills, I feel like, were very kind of weak. Like, as bad as the 2022 one is, at least I'll give that one. That one edges, in that area at least, edges out over this one. At least there were some badass kills in that one. Like, they go pretty hard in some scenes with the kills in that one. The kills in this are just bad. Oh my god. Oh, don't get me started on the whole attempt at 3D, because there's just some scenes, like there's a scene where Leatherface like throws his chainsaw, and it like clearly is supposed to be like, because this is 3D, so they like do a close up shot of the chainsaw like flying, so it's supposed to be like flying at you, and it's so bad. The 3D, and I'm like, this is 2013 or probably like 2012 ish when it was being made. I'm like, you couldn't make this look better. Like, this looks cheap. Like, you didn't even try to. Anyway, and the ending. In my opinion, the ending is one of the dumbest endings, where she gets kidnapped by the people who actually killed her family, and I don't even know what the point of these characters were, because the main guy who did it, he runs the fair, but he's the guy who burns Leatherface's family down initially, which it's such a weird decision to do that. But anyway. So Leatherface basically saves her because he sees like the burn mark, which is the Sawyer family. I don't know. And yeah, its ending is terrible. So I'm going to go into that, all of that. This movie is just bad. At this point, I was just like, maybe they kind of probably should just put the kibosh on Texas Chainsaw. And it's sad because I do think there is some good things in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's just, I don't know. I just feel like they don't want to put the work in. It's just they don't know what to do anymore. I don't know if they just feel like it's just about Leatherface, and maybe that's what they thought. But like, it's not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't like Halloween or Friday the 13th or even Nightmare on Elm Street, where it is about the one killer. You know, Halloween's just about Michael in that sense, or Friday the 13th is about Jason, and Nightmare is about Freddy. Leatherface is just not, he's not the focal point of these movies. It's almost like the Sawyer family in general is almost like I would almost throw them in general as like a horror, as the horror, not just Leatherface. And I think that's unfortunately what a lot of the later movies lost. I haven't, minus, just for now, because I haven't seen it, the 2017 Leatherface one. So I'm taking that one out. This is just the ones I've seen. But a lot of the later ones, it just seems like they think, oh, Leatherface is the face, so we're just going to have him be the focus. But he's just not interesting enough to carry a movie. And this movie, I think, is another example of that. And the 2022 one, which I've already reviewed. But, like, it just, yeah, it's sad. And I think we need to get back to understanding that the Sawyers is what made that interest, the story in general. I mean, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Sawyers is a big part of the reason. I mean, I love Leatherface, but that is the truth. He's not the only thing that makes these movies. But anyway, tomorrow, I'll try to do this video during the day. If not, early in the night. I don't know how late, but I'll try to make sure it's done tomorrow. It'll be done tomorrow. But I will be doing my top 10 movies of 2022. Let's try this video. I was supposed to do last week, and I ended up doing it, and New Year's came along and all that. So, and Happy New Year, by the way. So, anyway, we get ready to kick off and choose. So the movie opens up. It basically is supposed to be like, it's supposed to be like moments after, like you get like a little like flashback of basically they show you quick scenes of the original movie. And then this is supposed to basically be like essentially right after, and the sheriff shows up and tries to like basically call Leatherface to come out and surrender. The family initially refuses, But then um, a group of vigilantes show up, basically like kind of like essentially like a lynch mob, I guess we'll call them that. Show up and basically throw Molotovs in the house and burn it down, seemingly killing everybody except one baby, which gets taken, and they end up killing Mother Loretta or Lorietta. I think Loretta. Actually, Lorietta's a fucking thing. Anyway, but then I guess like a time jump happens, and this is where we meet Heather, and I love how on the nose it is. They make her sort of the way they introduce her. She works at a meat either like a meat factory or like a slaughterhouse where she's like cutting meat. It's like, God, it's so on the fucking nose, man. So she finds out that she actually has a different family and that she was adopted. And yeah, she has an argument with like her adopted parents. That's it. Then this is where we meet her boyfriend Ryan, played by Trey Songz. He is easily the worst character in the whole movie. His acting was some of the worst. He wasn't even a character. It was like he was clearly. It was like he was just being Trey Songz. Obviously, I don't listen to his music, but it was like it felt like he was just playing himself. He wasn't even acting really. But yeah, she decides to take her friends because she gets a letter about how I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember the grandma's name, but she died. I think Edith, I think is grandma's name, and that she has basically rights to the house, and she decides to with her friends take a road trip. And yeah, so they take a road trip. They get to the house. I'll admit that's probably like the only positive. I think the house looks nice, and it still like the one shot. Like this is way later in the film, but like Leatherface like runs out. It looks pretty good, kind of like similar to the original. But like everything else, it's just none of these characters are are invested in. Leatherface doesn't even really show up till way later in the movie. So yeah, they get to the house. One of them ends up getting killed not off screen. Like he goes down because he finds like a extra room. This is where he gets killed by Leatherface, and Leatherface's entrance in the movie isn't even like fucking. There's no pizzazz about it. Like he just kind of shows up, hits the guy with a hammer, and then that's it. So, yeah, you don't, and that's the thing. The reason I'm not even going into any of the characters because they're not characters. They're just kind of there. So, I'm just gonna kind of jump because at this point, we find out that Ryan and Nikki he's actually cheating on Heather, who's his girlfriend, with Nikki, she's basically I'll just say it, she's the slut of the movie. And it's almost like they even make her like, I don't remember the girl's name, but from the first one, you have the girl with the red booty shorts. She's basically supposed to be that character, and it's a really shit attempt at it. It's on the nose, man. And like I mentioned earlier, the timeline doesn't make sense because they originally wrote this because this was supposed to be set in the 90s. But whatever reason, I don't know if the studio was like, no, we don't want to put work into putting like 90s fucking props. So they're like, fuck it, we're just gonna make it set in modern times. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. The studio just didn't want to maybe go all the way and put the work in doing 90s props because originally this was supposed to be set in the 90s because even the way things are shot and some of the scenes, you could tell it was clearly supposed to be the 90s. Even some of the way the characters dress, I'm like, they don't seem like they're dressed modernly. Like, the only thing you could tell it's modern is like some of the police cars look newer. You see like iPhones from, I think it's iPhone 4 or 4S. That's about the only thing you could tell that it's modern day. Everything else, even like one of the cars they get in looks like a van from the 90s. So it's like clearly still in the movie. So they just didn't change much besides, we'll just put a couple iPhones and so it's like they didn't even like fully commit to making it modern. They probably should have just made it. I would have preferred the '90s one, but if they wanted to make it modern day, they should have committed. Have them all dressed modern day. Have them have headphones or something. Because even the start of the movie, it doesn't feel like it's modern. You don't even get like the cell phones and stuff till later in the movie. So, um, Leatherface, I think, ends up kidnapping. Well, Nikki lures Ryan for a hookup. Leatherface kidnaps. Because I think Heather ends up finding like that secret room and finds the body. Not body, but she finds like blood. And yeah, Leatherface kidnaps her and this is where he finds Leatherface's secret bunker. And it's the problem is once again with Leatherface, he's not interesting on his own, and because he doesn't talk, there's nothing with him in this movie, but he kills people. And granted, I even don't think he does that right in this. Like the kills in this are just kind of weak, even especially compared to the last two movies, where the kills are fucking hard, but the stories are good. I actually like the beginning. This one is just not enjoyable one bit. There's nothing enjoyable about it. Like, you don't care about this Heather character. The most I can say is, and this is just, oh, she's hot. Okay. So yeah, she manages to get away, but her friend ends up getting killed. And her friend, he has like, he almost looks like he's like dressed like he's like the late 90s. Like he has like the really long sideburns. And I think he even had like the chin strap mustache. Like, yeah, dude. This was clearly written to be 90s, but they just didn't put the work in. So she manages to get away. Heather calls the police while, oh no, before that, Heather gets in the car with her friends because there's a chase scene. Heather hides in a coffin. That after Ryan's done having sex with Nikki, they distract and Leatherface chases them. They manage to get in the van. Leatherface scratches like the van with his saw. Somehow this causes a crash, and I think Ryan's killed pretty much immediately, while Nikki ends up hiding in the refrigerator, which that's going to be important later. Nikki runs away. We get a chase, which the chase is just kind of shit. Like, at least the one thing about like classic horror movies is the chases are supposed to be good, and you want them to try to get away, and you want to get invested. Oh, is she gonna get away? There was none of that in this. It was just like, I don't care. I'm just like this the whole time. I'm just like, can speed this up. Even this scene, which I should think is kind of cool, where Leatherface freaks out at like this fair and scares off like one of the fucking workers, causes a little bit of destruction. This is the scene I was talking about where he throws the fucking chainsaw. I think he was trying to throw it at her, but someone ducks out of the way, and the fucking the chainsaw like flies on camera because it's supposed to be like 3D. It's supposed to be a 3D effect, and it looks so bad. I was just like, what the fuck? Why? Like, what was the point of making this 3D? Like, I'm gonna be honest, in general, horror shouldn't be 3D. Unless it's like Alien. I mean, like, the only exception maybe I'll give. But largely, no. Horror doesn't fit 3D. 3D should only be for, like, and granted, I understand this came out. This was 2013. This was just that like, everything needs to be 3D. I think that's probably why. Like, I understand there's Friday the 13th 3D. But it was, even then, I still feel like at least the 3D in that, besides, there's only like a couple of scenes where I feel like, okay, it was a little over the top with the 3D effect. This was like blatant. Like, there's a couple times where there's like a chainsaw, like, or like there's one later where before he kills her, or he attempts to kill her, he puts like the chainsaw like really up close, like it's supposed to be flying up to the screen. It's obnoxious. So yeah, he causes destruction, but she manages to get away. She calls the police, the main sheriff, and I'm supposed to be I think it's the same sheriff who from the original, from that opening scene, along with the one guy who caused the who was the leader of the vigilantes. He basically wants to kill the Sawyers, which in a fucked up way, why is he the bad guy? In a weird way, why is he the bad guy? Like, he wants to kill the Sawyers. Granted, it doesn't fully make sense how the town fully knew it was Leatherface. I guess you could say Sally called the police. I understand that. But how the fuck did the whole town know? And I guess small town just knew. Whatever. But, so she goes to the police station. This is where she finds out more about her family, while the officer finds and there's this one officer who turns out to be the son of that one guy, the cow. I'll just say cowboy hat guy, because that's basically all his real character is. So one of the officers goes to the house, and basically with like camera footage, it's supposed to be like oh, it's like first person, but there was no need for it. It was stupid. So yeah, he goes in, and this is where we get I'm not gonna lie, I fucking laughed so hard. He sees the refrigerator, and he opens it, and it's Nikki, who was hiding in there the whole time, even though I guess we're supposed to assume maybe it wasn't plugged in, but it should be plugged in. And I'm thinking in movie time, there should have been a lot of time that passed. I don't know how she survived. She should have been frozen as fuck. But anyway, she pops out and the fucking cop shoots her. I'm not gonna lie. I was fucking dying. There's at least one thing in this movie that killed me. It was because how fucking it was just done. Like, she pops out and just bam! Just gets fucking capped. And then, yeah, he freaks out. And then, yeah, he ends up getting killed. The kills are just so boring, man. There's nothing to them. The one guy, I guess he hooked. It was okay, but eh. So Heather meets her lawyer, who you see earlier in the film. Basically, he tells her about her past and that he knew the whole time, and it's weird, but Heather just doesn't give a fuck that her friends are dead. Like, I know she mentions it a couple of times, but it's like, she doesn't, like, sound like, oh, my friends are dead. Like, she actually gives a shit. She just kind of doesn't care. She's just, oh, they're dead. Okay. They're all dead. It just doesn't matter now. Then... then cowboy guy shows up and tries, basically all of a sudden he wants to kidnap her now. I don't know if there was shit cut or something, but there was no context to why does he want her now. Because the scene before, nothing indicated he wanted her, but all of a sudden, yeah, he wants to kidnap her now. Then, yeah, she gets hit by, I guess, his buddy, which I'll admit, that was kind of funny, too. And then, yeah, she slices him in the face. She runs away. She runs into that cop who, they make it seem like, yeah, he's, like, on her side, but no, it turns out he's the son of the cowboy guy, and basically kidnaps her to take her to him. Somehow Leatherface hears it on the... I'm like, isn't Leatherface supposed to be like kind of not... Like, kind of like Jason, I'm gonna say it, he's supposed to be like kind of retarded. Why would he have the wherewithal to listen to police radio? But okay. Somehow he knows that Heather's there. Okay. He goes there while the lawyer goes to the sheriff, and they go to the location because, they track the car. That's the only time in the movie where it's like, it feels like it was like modern times. Everything else, like this movie could have been the 90s. It's like you can clearly tell they didn't fully like take that out of the movie because it's there. But anyway, they tie her up. Leatherface shows up while he talks to his son for a second. Yeah, Leatherface shows up, and this is the scene I was talking about where he walks up, seemingly about to kill her, and like yeah, he has like the chainsaw right at the fucking screen, and it's supposed to be like a 3D effect, like it's coming right at you, and I'm like, this is bad, this is shit 3D. This didn't need to be 3D. I kind of feel bad for the people who actually paid 3D prices for this when this came out because it's like this didn't need to be 3D. There was no the 3D moments were forced. Even like the intro was like a forced 3D effect. Like when it goes to like Texas Chainsaw, it's like it gets sliced and it like the like and it's like done in a way where it looks like body parts or like meat, you know, and it's so stupid. This I don't know why they made it 3D. It was I think they just thought that sounded like it would be a cool title, Texas Chainsaw 3D, and it just no. This is where the movie just goes full retard. Even though it kind of went full retard anyway, it goes full even more. So Leatherface sees the fucking burn mark, which I guess is mentioned earlier, and he saves her all of a sudden. Yeah, he's a good guy now. And yeah, that guy beats the shit out of Leatherface, which on paper, why is he the bad guy? Like why? He's beating the shit out of a serial killer who killed like multiple people. I guess granted, it's only theoretically there's supposed to be a sequel to the original, but still. Okay, and then the only thing that doesn't make any sense, if this was supposed to be a follow to the original, does that mean Friday Texas Chainsaw Part 2 isn't canon? Which pisses me off, because I actually like that movie. That was a way better movie than this. So yeah, while this is going on, the sheriff shows up. She initially gets free and initially makes it seem like, oh, she's going to go off and let Leatherface get fucked up. But then she decides to come back and help her cousin. She kills the guy with like I think it's like a pitchfork. The guy's assistant, and then she ends up distracting cowboy hat guy and gives Leatherface a chainsaw. And this is where we get probably in my opinion one of the cringiest lines in Texas Chainsaw history. Do your thing, cuz. And the way she says it with all seriousness, I'm like, oh my god, why would you write that? Oh my god. So yeah, they have a fight. Leatherface cuts the guy's legs. While this goes on, the sheriff shows up and is about to shoot Leatherface, but she basically somehow she convinces him to not shoot Leatherface. To let Leatherface kill the guy, cut his like hands off because he's like hanging off like a meat grinder because that's what they were gonna send Leatherface. And yeah, he chops the guy's hand off and he falls in the meat grinder like Michael Myers did. Anyway, this was such a bad movie. She ends up, for some reason, the sheriff just lets him go, even though keep in mind, Leatherface still killed people in 1974. Does that just not matter? Okay. You can go now, Leatherface. I guess statute of limitations, I don't know. This is supposed to be, because according to Wikipedia, this is supposed to be 2011 now. So, okay. So she ends up basically becoming his caretaker. She reads some letter from her grandma that basically reveals like her real name. I think it's like Edith. She basically gets her grandma's name. Whatever. This movie is fucking terrible. I just don't understand what they were thinking with this. The timeline doesn't make sense. The characters are bad. The ending is it's like if Michael Myers let's say at the time this was made, Halloween, if they did a Halloween movie and you had Laurie Strode, because at the time Michael and Laurie were brother and sister. I know that it's not canon now technically, but at the time it was. So let's say they had did a movie and you ended it with like Lori becoming Michael's caretaker or something. It's like this ending makes no sense. Why would the fucking sheriff just let him go? Leatherface literally murdered people. Okay, just lets him go. The cowboy guy isn't. I don't really see him as a bad guy. I'm sorry. I guess the only thing you could say he did bad was he kidnapped the girl. That's like probably the only bad thing I could say legit he did. Everything else, it's like he killed a killer family. He wanted to kill the last of the killer family. He nearly beat up that said killer and nearly about to kill him. No. The whole ending doesn't make sense. The timeline once again doesn't make sense. Because clearly you could tell even in the movie that this was supposed to be the 90s, but they were forced, I don't know, or whatever, to make it 2011 or modern times. And it just doesn't work. The characters, like I said, are terrible. None of them are you don't care about. You don't get invested in. And I understand. And you can argue it's a horror movie. You don't need to get. I mean, to an extent, I do think I should give somewhat of a shit about a character. The only exception is maybe Friday the 13th, because I'll admit, I know going in with those, that I just want to see Jason fuck people up. Because that's how Friday the 13th was almost built that way. Texas Chainsaw Massacre did have a good foundation. That original one wasn't just like schlock horror. I wouldn't call the original Texas Chainsaw that. Even the 2003 one, that one had decent characters. Even the beginning, which I've said the characters were somewhat weak, but they were still okay. Compared to this movie, they're fucking masterpieces. There's just nothing about the characters in this one. The only character I guess somewhat they care about is Heather because she has the family aspect, but you don't care. The lack of the Sawyers just doesn't work, man. Between this one and the 2022 one, you need the Sawyers. They're what make, in my opinion, they're kind of what carry the story. Them not being in this movie, it's so noticeable, them not being there. Just compared to the last few I've been watching. Even the bad ones, like Texas Chainsaw Next Generation. You know? Even like that one. But at least the Sawyers, where they carry the movie. They almost carry the story. They're what tie Leatherface to the franchise. When you just have Leatherface on his own, it's just a dude with a chainsaw. And that's kind of what you get. And I just think he's not interested. He's not like a Michael Myers or a Jason who can carry their story just by themselves and they don't need any outside elements. Leatherface was built off that outside element. Some of the best ones in the franchise are what with the Sawyers. The first one, the 2003 one, even the beginning. I would say the new beginning, but the beginning. Even that one. You know, it's like the ones without the family are just almost like this one and the 2022 one. When you don't have that element there, you just got a guy with a chainsaw. And that's what you got with this one. And then I'm sorry, when you get a line like "Do your thing, cuz," I just know, they should have just stopped here, in my opinion. I don't know about the 2017 Leatherface. I haven't seen it, so I'm going in that one blind. So maybe I'm hoping at least it'll be better than this one, but we'll see. Because it's sad. I think Texas Chainsaw, there's so much potential with it, but they just seem to they decided, no, we're not going to continue the 2003 timeline. I don't know if this was just because this was 2013, and I think part of the reason was because it was kind of getting past that like remake era, and it was getting close to that. We got to go back to the original story. It was kind of getting close to that time, so that's probably why they decided, yeah, we're gonna go, because this technically is supposed to be the follow up to the original, and it just doesn't work for me. So yeah, this is terrible. I wouldn't recommend watching it at all. I don't think there's anything in it, unless you just want to be a completionist, just so you can say you watched all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. That'd be like the only reason I'd say to watch it. But yeah, this one is terrible. So as usual, tomorrow, like I mentioned, not Top Gun. That's gonna be my list, but top 20, not 20, 10 movies of 2022. And I think there have been, like I said, there has been some good stuff last year. I don't want to be a doom and gloom and say, oh, all 2022 has been shit in terms of movies. No, there's been some good stuff. So I feel like I want to list them so we can keep it positive. I do want to talk about something good because these last 2 days, man, these last two reviews have been kind of painful. Just the amount of bad between old and this shit, this Texas Chainsaw movie. Yeah. So I can't wait to talk about something positive. So, but as usual, I'm gonna cheers and peace out. If I were to rate this one like a 2 out of 10, this one isn't good. Yeah, never again. Never will watch this one again. Probably with the Texas Chainsaw movies, I'm probably gonna only really watch the first one, the second one, and then the 03 one, and the beginning. I'll throw that one in there. But aside from those four, pretty much so far, it seems like those will be the only four I'm gonna watch. So, but as usual, talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.